Perhaps, nothing cuts deeper than being misunderstood by the very people you once trusted the most. It's not because they hate you, but because they've come to believe a story that was never true, a story carefully crafted by someone, detail by detail, through half-truths, twisted words, and glances meant to plant seeds of doubt. You start to hear your name surface in conversations that no longer feel friendly, notice subtle shifts in how people treat you, and then you begin to question yourself. Am I really the person they say I am? You find yourself torn inside. Part of you wants to speak up, to scream just to make things clear, but another part is exhausted, afraid that the more you explain, the more you'll look like you're trying too hard to defend yourself. You want to confront the one who spread those lies, to force them to tell the truth, but deep down, you know that person, the manipulator behind the mask of kindness, only needs your anger as proof to convince others that you really are the unstable one. And so, you become trapped between two painful choices: to speak up in order to be understood, or to stay silent to protect your peace. There's something suffocating about carrying a distorted image of yourself that you never created. It's a mixture of anger and helplessness, as if someone were tightening a grip around your throat, leaving you unable to breathe a single word. Yet, in that very moment, caught between pain and the longing to clear your name, you begin to realize something essential. Not everyone deserves your effort to prove your truth, because the truth, sooner or later, always finds its own way to be seen. And in today's video, we'll go deeper into that, into how a narcissist manages to turn others against you, and more importantly, how you can reclaim your calm, your truth, and your sense of self. To understand why everything can turn upside down so quickly, why people who once cared for you now believe falsehoods, we need to look directly at the one behind the curtain, the narcissist. A narcissist doesn't care about truth, they care about control. To them, relationships are not about connection but about strategy, a chessboard where others' emotions are pieces to be moved at will. When you begin to assert independence, when you no longer react the way they want, or when you dare to speak the truth, they feel threatened. That's when the smear campaign begins. They don't attack you outright. Instead, they manipulate through subtle details, retelling believable stories laced with insinuation. They plant tiny seeds of doubt in others' minds until those doubts grow into full-blown truths. What makes a narcissist dangerous isn't just the lies, it's their ability to make those lies look real. They appear kind, understanding, even wounded. And while you're struggling to defend the truth, they play the victim, convincing others that you're the one who caused their pain. That is the art of manipulation. No evidence, only narrative. Slowly, you find yourself lost in a web of distortions, where everything you say is misinterpreted and every action is questioned. The cruelest part is that in this silent war, they don't just take away your reputation, they make you start doubting your own reality. And then, when every word and action of yours has been twisted, what they truly want isn't just to turn others against you, but to make you turn against yourself. The isolation a narcissist creates doesn't just strip away your connections with others, it gradually severs the connection you have with yourself. Surrounded by cold stares and quiet whispers, you start to wonder, what did I do wrong? Or am I really the problem? That's how they win, not by proving anything, but by making you doubt your own emotions and memories. Slowly, you withdraw, stop trusting your instincts, and silence your voice. You feel like you've been pushed into a void where even your truth no longer matters. The pain doesn't only come from the narcissist's betrayal, but from those who believe their lies, people you once thought would always understand you. When you see disappointment in their eyes or hear doubt in their words, it feels like your heart is being torn in two. And paradoxically, while you try to appear calm on the outside, inside you're caught in a storm: anger, sadness, shame, even guilt. But that chaos isn't weakness. It's a human response to being stripped of safety. What you're experiencing is emotional trauma where trust, identity, and stability are all shaken at once. And that's why acknowledging the pain, instead of denying it, becomes the very first step toward healing. At some point, In the middle of all that emotional chaos, you do what any human would naturally do. You try to explain, to be understood, to reclaim your sense of justice. But that's the moment you unknowingly step right into their game. The first instinct when you're misunderstood is to explain, to clarify, to make others see that you're not at fault. But to a narcissist, that's exactly the door they've been waiting for you to open. The stronger your reaction, the more evidence they gain to prove themselves right. See? They're too emotional, too dramatic, unstable even. So while you believe you're bringing clarity, you're actually falling deeper into their trap. They don't have to say much, they simply wait for you to speak, and then twist your words into weapons. You write long messages, gather proof, call people one by one to make them understand. But instead of making things clearer, everything seems to get worse. To outsiders, you now look overly reactive, while the manipulator appears hurt, gentle, just trying to make peace. Ironic, isn't it? The more you fight to be understood, the easier it becomes for them to redefine you. And every reaction you give, every bit of emotion only feeds them, gives them more power. That's why sometimes silence is the strongest answer. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to stop playing their game. You don't need to chase down every rumor. Those who truly know you don't need convincing. Those who believe lies were never truly with you. Your calmness, your quiet steadiness, is the one thing a narcissist can never control. After all the exhausting attempts to explain and be understood, a harsh truth begins to dawn on you. The more you speak, the more drained you feel. And in that silence, a quiet question surfaces. What if I stop reacting altogether? That's when you begin to understand the true power of emotional neutrality. In the narcissist's world, your emotions are their lifeline. Every time you get angry, cry, or try to defend yourself, they feel victorious because your reaction proves they still have control. But the moment you stop reacting, when your voice steadies, when your eyes no longer tremble, you reclaim the most powerful thing of all, your inner stability. Emotional neutrality doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means refusing to let them dictate how you feel. You respond briefly, calmly, with no emotional hooks for them to grab onto. This is the essence of the gray rock method, becoming as unmoved as stone. No arguments, no visible pain, no reaction for them to feed on. At first, they'll try everything to provoke you, bringing up old wounds, inventing new lies, playing the victim. But as they fail to get a reaction, their interest fades. They can't control what they can't trigger. And in that quiet realization, you understand something profound. Calmness isn't weakness, it's the strength of someone who has suffered deeply, yet still chooses dignity over chaos. There comes a point when, after holding your calm for so long, you realize you no longer want to argue, you just want to find the truth. Not to prove it to anyone else, but to remind yourself that what happened really happened. After days surrounded by lies and twisted stories, your mind grows weary, doubting even your own memories. The narcissist blurs the lines between truth and illusion, making you believe that your emotions are too sensitive, that your recollections are not reliable. And in that confusion, you begin to lose your sense of reality. That's why reclaiming the truth isn't about exposing them, it's about keeping yourself anchored. Start small. Write down what you see, what you hear, what you feel. Save the messages, the emails, the notes. Don't let the fear of being called paranoid stop you from protecting your own sanity. Because when the doubt returns, and it will, those records will ground you. They will remind you that you weren't imagining things. You weren't overreacting, you were living in a distorted reality. Sometimes, documentation isn't about using it, it's about healing. It allows you to see clearly, to recognize patterns, to understand how you were drawn into the web. And from there, you begin to reclaim control, not control over others, but over your own mind. Because once you hold on to the truth, the narcissist has nothing left to manipulate. And then, there comes a moment, a strangely quiet one, when you realize you no longer want to prove, to fight, or to hold on. A part of you whispers softly, "Enough. Now." That's the first sign that you're ready to walk away. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you've grown too tired of living inside a battle that was never fair. To a narcissist, everything is a game: love, empathy, even pain. They don't seek resolution, they seek victory. And when you finally understand that your peace is being traded every day just to keep that connection alive, you know it's time to leave. Walking away isn't easy. It means accepting that there will be no apology, no confession, no final sense of justice. It means letting go of the hope that one day they'll understand you, or that those who turned against you will finally see the truth. But letting go isn't defeat, it's an act of strength. It's choosing yourself over your pain. You might cry, you might feel empty, but behind that ache lies freedom. Freedom from proving, from fear, from waiting for validation that never came. Because sometimes the greatest courage doesn't lie in standing your ground, it lies in walking away to protect your soul. After the long storm of pain and loss, there will come a morning when you wake up feeling a little lighter. Not because everything has suddenly healed, but because you begin to realize you're still here, still breathing, and that means you have a chance to start again. This time, you won't be doing it alone. This is the moment to rebuild not just your life, but the connections that make it meaningful. After leaving the toxic cycle, you might feel empty, lost, or invisible. But that emptiness isn't an ending. It's space for new, healthier relationships to grow. Start with safety, not in numbers, but in presence. Find the people who make you feel calm just by being near them: an old friend who never judged you, a family member who listens without fixing, or a small circle of survivors who simply get it. Sometimes, one person who truly sees you is enough to help you remember who you are. If you can, seek therapy. A good therapist doesn't just help you unpack what happened, they help you rebuild trust in yourself and in others. Write, share, join spaces where your pain isn't labeled as too sensitive. And slowly, you'll notice something beautiful. You're no longer merely surviving your past, you're emerging from it. Because the true miracle after leaving a narcissist isn't their silence, it's your laughter. That first genuine laugh that reminds you you're safe, you're seen, and you're finally, truly alive again. At some point, when all the noise fades away, when you no longer feel the need to defend or explain yourself, you realize that the deepest wound isn't what they did to you, but the trust you lost in yourself. After living under manipulation for too long, you learn to doubt everything that once felt natural: your emotions, your memories, your intuition. A narcissist doesn't just hurt you through actions or words, they break you by making you question your own reality. Every time you speak up, they smirk, "You're imagining things." Every time you're hurt, they whisper, "You're too sensitive." Slowly, you stop recognizing your own voice. You can't tell what's real, what's false, what belongs to you, and what was planted by them. Rebuilding self-trust after that isn't an act of strength, it's an act of honesty. It begins with acknowledging the truth, that you were manipulated, that you believed the wrong person, that you once betrayed your own feelings just to be loved. Healing begins when you face that truth without shame. From there, you start listening inward again: the discomfort when someone crosses a line, the warmth when you feel safe near the right person. Your intuition was never gone, it was buried beneath fear and guilt. Now, every time you choose to trust your inner knowing, you're rewriting that belief: not blind trust as before, but a conscious, grounded one, built on experience and self-respect. And in that quiet recognition, you finally understand. True power was never about trusting others, it was about finding the courage to trust yourself again. And once you've learned to trust yourself again, something beautiful begins to unfold. The pain doesn't vanish, but it transforms. It no longer bleeds, it simply rests within you, quietly, as proof of everything you've survived. The path to healing is never a straight line. There will be days when you feel light, strong, even hopeful, and nights when you fall back into that familiar ache, when a voice, a scent, or a memory pulls you under. But that doesn't mean you're back at the beginning. It only means your soul is learning to stretch around the wound to live with it. not for it. Healing isn't about forgetting, it's about changing the way you remember. You no longer recall to hurt, you recall to understand, to witness how far you've come. One day, when someone mentions their name, your heart won't race anymore. You won't feel anger or shame. You'll feel something softer, peace, as if that chapter, once heavy and painful, has finally been read, closed, and set aside. Then, life begins again. You laugh for yourself, you sleep in the safety you built, you love with gratitude instead of fear. Because you've learned that survival was only the beginning, healing is the journey you choose every single day. You no longer need apologies. You no longer need anyone to validate what you went through. True freedom arrives when you stop wishing the past had been different and start thanking it for leading you here, to this quiet, sacred peace. And when you finally reach the end of this long road through pain, confusion, and sleepless nights, you realize something profoundly simple. The light was never gone. It was waiting for you, quietly, until you were brave enough to open your eyes again. The narcissist may have tried to rewrite your story to define you through lies, to turn your silence into guilt, but now, the pen is back in your hands. You're no longer a victim of what happened. You're the author of what comes next, written in your truth, your voice, and your integrity. As you sit in the calm after the storm, you begin to see that nothing they did can truly define you. They could wound you, yes, but they could never take away your essence. They could twist your truth, but not extinguish your light, because after everything, you're no longer someone who needs to be saved, you're someone who has already saved themselves. And that's what I want you to remember. Healing isn't about forgetting, it's about gratitude. Gratitude for having survived, for seeing who truly deserved a place in your heart, and for finally choosing yourself. Take it slow. Treat yourself with the same gentleness you once gave to others. Don't rush to be strong, it's enough to just be honest with how you feel. Write, speak, cry, laugh, as long as you're being real. And if one day loneliness finds you again, remember, the light you're looking for isn't out there, it's within you, waiting to be trusted again. Every crack in your heart isn't proof of damage, it's the place where light finally finds its way in.